What up? The recording? Good, okay, thank you. Want to open the meeting. This is an official Benton County Board of Commissioners meeting because all three of us are here. It was advertised and all that. And so with the topic of this is the 2026 legislator send-off. And we want to thank all of you electeds for coming. Senators and representatives, appreciate your time. We have some other electeds here. We have three judges. We have Judge Stam. I thought he was a commissioner still because Josie said that, but he's a judge. And then Judge Brewer. We have our elected clerk, Josie Delvin. We have our elected treasurer, Mr. Spencer. That's son, right?
Kid's right there.
Yeah, I got Ken. And then we have a lot of staff. We have our HR staff. We have admin, Superior Court admin. We have several from the auditors. We have our auditor with us, and we have our planner. What's your title now, Greg?
Community development.
Community development. We have our fair manager, our IT guy. We have our OPD person, OPD. Heath, and I can't see who's behind him.
Sure.
Oh, okay, the sheriff, under sheriff, hiding back there. Hiding back there. Again, and then our staff, of course, I just said Brenda, we have Katie, communications. Adam, he's our go-to guy for everything. Sustainable development. But he does everything. We got Matt, our assistant administrator. We got Jared, our administrator. I don't know how many Franklin County employees we have. We've got quite a few now. And then the three commissioners, Commissioner Alfred. And then Josh Lee, she's our paid lobbyist in the field, out on his own. Well, Eric Johnson. So thank you for being here. Thank all of you for being here. And especially thank the staff for organizing this. So right now I'll turn it over to Josh.
Yeah, and I wanted to say thank you, Commissioner. And welcome everyone. I wanted to say again that Representative Rude, Representative Barnard are under the weather. They passed their regrets. Representative Manjara's had a last minute work conflict. Representative Defoe called me last week and said he wasn't going to be able to be here, but passed on his greetings. So I know that there's a number of people who wanted to be here but can't be. We're still expecting a hand.
And I know the flu is going around. I know my son just called me this morning, that my mom called me. They haven't seen each other, but they were both sick with the flu and those type of things. So it's going around. So yeah,
For sure.
And Senator Torres is on a meeting in her car. She'll be right back.
we got to have Nikki.
Yeah. My comments about 25 and setting the stage are really brief. Like 25, we just really appreciate all of the help. Consistently, our legislators are fighting for the county, really supportive of whether the Three Rivers project last year asking for the house. Really appreciate your support on that. You've been awesome on that. And then, the thing that probably a lot of people don't see are those last minute issues that we don't anticipate, budget amendments, bills that come from nowhere, both good and bad, and you're just always responsible. So thanks for all the help. Benton County continues to just be really successful because of the work. 26, we know it's a short session. We know there's no operating budget dollars available or transportation budget dollars available to be asking for new things. We just appreciate. Yeah.
Just to let you guys know ahead of time.
It's around getting the capital. We appreciate, as you're thinking about operating budget in particular, and you have to balance your own budget, remembering that counties are doing work on your behalf as agents of the state. And so if you have to consider cuts, please don't consider cutting county programs, county services. On the capital side, thank you, Senator Dozier. There is a decent amount of bond capacity left for a supplemental budget year. And that bond capacity increased because of the majority's tax increases last year. So you'll see we have some capital requests this year. We're hoping that that's the sweet spot. I know, senators, you've heard from Democratic capital budget leadership that you have really limited amounts of money per district. I remember they did the same thing last year, and it ended up being just a pretty regular capital budget for biennial year. So, but I understand that you have limits you have to live within. The House, my understanding is they haven't given that same, no limit.
A bunch of rebels over there.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
You know,
Representative Derringer is getting, slack in his tenure as a legislature. No, but we know it'll all balance out. I guess is my point. So we know, based on what we're hearing, there's probably gonna be a crazy session. I already mentioned the operating budget. Please talk to us as those cut proposals start coming down, because we're pretty sure we'll see them. I think that's where I'm gonna end my comments. Turn it over to staff.
Okay, yeah, they're gonna give some general comments, Matt's gonna talk about the recovery center. Brenda has some stuff on the auditors, statewide auditors association, they have some topics, so first, and then Adam, general reflection, and then, any other electeds would like to give
10:12 a.m.
comments on Josie or the sheriff or Ken, have any statewide stuff? Ken does, okay. Well, you come up and sit there, Ken. Josie, do you have any statewide clerks? No? Okay, we'll get to you then. Okay, we'll start with Jerry.
Yeah, so I'm gonna echo a lot of what Josh said. Want to thank everybody for being here today and thank you for all you've done. Benton County, like a lot of counties, we have our challenges, but overall Benton County's in pretty good shape. We have a lot of positive things we're doing, a lot of positive, good projects we're working on. A lot of them thanks to you all. So again, thank you. Yeah, well, so.
Matt?
So yeah, talk about some of the capital things that we've done. Many of those involve significant contributions from the state. Thanks again to your efforts. First one is, the update on is the recovery center. I know you see people follow along with that a little bit, but we are on track for completion or substantial completion in February of 2026. We expect physical completion in March. And then we're having a ribbon cutting grand opening on April 17th. And so we tried to time that. Hopefully you guys will be available and have a session, and we would really, really like to have you be able to attend that. So it's really a fantastic project that, took a lot of support from the state, federal government, from our county leaders here. And we've even gathered over $3 million in private community support towards this project. And so that's something to truly be proud of, be a part of this community and seeing that open. So we're very excited to see that open in April. And we've got almost the operating agreement ready to go with the provider. They're very excited. They gave us a presentation about a week and a half ago that gave us some good projections on what they expect as far as costs. And we're very happy to see that they can reach around 60% capacity, that it should be a neutral cost for Benton County. So they would be profitable beyond 60%. Given the state of behavioral health facilities in our Washington, we don't think we're gonna have any trouble reaching 60%. So we're very excited to see that we should have a sustainable model. So big upfront cost for the county and the state, but hopefully long-term sustainable services based on what we're seeing. The next part of that is the recovery housing that was mentioned. And again, a huge lift from this group last year to get $3.8 million towards the recovery housing, which is the next step for us in the recovery center. Some actually pretty exciting news. We had started a process in the design and got through a design piece inside the current hospital. And as we reached the end of that, we were speaking to another builder, and they commented, it's like, we can build something very similar to that for a lot less money if it was not in the hospital building. And so we said, hey, we need to explore that. So we stepped back, took the programming work that we had completed as part of the design, engaged with the current architect and design and construction team, and said, is this in fact the case? If we built a separate building, would it be cheaper? And they did their analysis and they came back and said, yeah, we actually could do that. It has to do with the difference between residential level construction, because that's what we're building is apartments, versus a commercial level construction, which would have to be inside the building. It has to have a different occupancy code and things. And so we're going to be able to build what I feel is a better program. It actually has 2 more beds than we had anticipated. It also is allowing us to break it into separate units. We'll have a men's unit and a women's unit, where before it was going to be just a men's unit. And it's going to be about $4 million cheaper. And so with the funding from the state, the funding that we have from the Recovery Coalition, the local nonprofit, and the funding that Benton County is providing we're able to move forward with construction now instead of waiting to gather additional dollars. So we authorized the team to move forward. They completed the 50% design level plans yesterday. And we expect to begin construction on that in March of 2026 with a completion date of 1 year later. So very excited to see that. I don't like to be wrong about things, but in this case, I'm glad that I was wrong about placing it in the hospital and pivot and go a different direction, provide a much better program and do it for a lot less money. So that's a great thing to see there. Our juvenile justice center, this is one that's entirely funded by the county through a combination of our criminal justice sales tax and ARPA funds that we received. But just want to make sure to update the team on that. So we are undergoing a $24 million renovation of our aging juvenile facility. That includes a complete rebuild of the detention area and then a rehabilitation of the courtrooms and admin spaces. And so we are right now finishing up the first phase of the detention pod construction, and we'll be switching everybody around and moving people around and moving the building of the courtrooms and admin spaces. So that project is going on for probably about another year. It's been going on for a little more than 2 or 3 years with design and construction, but it's exciting to see it come together. If anybody had a chance to tour that before construction started, you can see why it needed the work. And so we're happy to see a nice, new, modern facility coming out to support juvenile programs in Benton County.
Matt, real quick on that, I can't remember the number. I don't know, Katie, if you remember that number, how many hearings and how many activities that go on there on an annual basis. It's
Over 10,000.
over 10,000. So I wanted to make sure you guys know. So that is very heavily used.
And people tend to think of juvenile here, as just detention, and it's so much more than that. In fact, the detention is frankly the smaller piece. The education programs, the probation programs, the counseling, and all the things that the courts do there. That is what the juvenile justice program is. Detention is a necessary component, but really it's, when you look at the grand scheme of what juvenile does, it's so much more than that. So we're excited to have that come to be and have a nice new home for them here in Benton County.
Yeah, that project started, if you recall, with the legislative appropriation, which we very much
Yeah,
appreciate.
And I was thinking back to those times when we did the tour a couple years back and seeing that, we're just trying to see what the new future is gonna be. So looking forward to this.
Yeah, if any of you want to have a tour, reach out and we will definitely schedule something for you. And I'm sure Katie will plan an elaborate grand opening ceremony.
It's good.
Sorry for interrupting. No, it's totally fine. A little bit of update on the regional emergency management projects that we've been working on. Through the cooperation of the cities and the counties, we were able, and some support from the federal government, we were able to complete the replacement of our microwave backbone system. So that is 100% done and online now. So very happy to see that. We were to the point of buying parts on eBay and resoldering circuit boards together. And so that is now a thing of the past, and we can focus on the moving forward in the future and maintaining it. So very happy to see that done. And then again, the 3 major cities, so Kennewick, Richland, Pasco, and the 2 counties stepped up to partner to expand and modernize our 800 megahertz system. And so we are actively in construction on that. A lot of the components in Benton County have been replaced. The Franklin County piece requires a lot more work. They need several new towers. So we're just getting started and moving into that phase of that, but we're still on track, still on budget. And so hopefully within about 18 months, we'll have a completely renovated 800 megahertz system, which will include all new mobile radios and everything. And so very excited. That's another system that was aging. It also brings in our fire department. They were utilizing VHF technology still, and so struggling with finding components and things to keep that up and running. They will now be on the 800 megahertz system, allow a lot more cross communication between law and fire, and make sure that they have a sustainable system going forward. So those are our major, well, we do have a couple others. So we are also doing some major work out at our fairgrounds and kind of the economic development sector. We recently completed an additional parking lot out there to allow for prior, if you came to an event at the fairgrounds and used one of the buildings, you had to park in the dirt, walk across a dirt parking lot, figure your way out through a bunch of gates, and it was difficult. And so we had a lot of feedback that it didn't present a real professional environment. So the parking lot changed all that. We now have a nice new paved parking area to host those dinners and things like that. So if you get a chance to drive out there, it really does look nice. The next major project that we're working on is a complete replacement of the Sundowns Arena. So that building was probably going to 70 years old and had significantly outgrown its useful life. So in the end, we decided to do a full tear down and rebuild. But in the process, we were able to expand the capacity by over 3,000 seats and get us to a 6,000 person capacity. So the demolition's been completed. But foundations are in, and we expect delivery of the bleacher structure here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so they'll begin erecting that. We're on target to complete it prior to fair. That was a big push for us to make sure the contract has a lot of incentives and penalties if they don't complete it by July, because we don't want to interfere with the fair and rodeo. But we are on track for that. We don't anticipate any further delays. So very excited to see that done. And we'll be holding some sort of a grand opening probably in July if it gets finished. We'd like to do some events there and get that going. We feel it's a big benefit to the region. You know, it adds that extra seating, supports the fair. I mean, consistently, the rodeo sells out. This will allow them more seats and more opportunity to bring in more people for that event. It's a very well-known rodeo event that we have here. So, and then we're excited to be able to bring in additional entertainment opportunities to Tri-City. We've got a lot of interest from concert promoters and motor sports and things like that, with that seating being in a range now that they can be profitable to bring those events here. And I know the community really wants to see that. So we're planning some additional work out there. One of them is on our capital asset. We'll get to that a little bit later, but we're investing a lot of money in the fairgrounds to try to bring that up to the modern age and make it very useful for the community. So that's what I have, Brenda, for election stuff.
Thanks to Adam and PD and Tom for the great tour we did for us.
Yeah.
I just gotta give Matt kudos. I'm the idea guy. I come up with these ideas.
Most of them aren't crazy.
Most of them are. Most of them. Josie will vouch for everything. I can say, Matt,
I don't know if Josie will vouch for it.
well, Matt's the doer and the brains behind it all. I just come up with these ideas, like you hear some of them coming up, but yeah, but Matt, I mean, without Matt, and Jared's, I mean, all the staff, yeah, we're getting things done here. And, without bonding, without you guys' help, without bonding, try to save our money and pay cash, so not asking for more money, So, yeah, thanks. Oh, sorry. Okay, Brenda.
Good morning, and thank you again for coming today and the opportunity to participate in the discussion today. The auditors, largely recognize you all as the lawmakers. Our role is administrative, and so we put a lot of consideration into when legislation comes along, usually election related. But sometimes licensing or recording related. We put a lot of consideration into whether or not we need to participate in that discussion about the lawmaking. Our focus is primarily on making sure that elections are run securely, accurately, and transparently. But occasionally a bill comes along, probably more than occasionally a bill comes along, that really affects the administration of elections and how we do our job. And so I appreciate that you all are willing to listen. I reached out multiple times last session. We'll probably reach out a few times this session. We find ourselves in the position of largely getting into more of a defensive mode, which we don't like to be in, but and responding to legislation that has been proposed. It's been a lot over the last few years. We expect it to continue in that manner. So just thank you for always being able to, or always being willing to listen when I reach out. I've called many of you on several occasions. We do have a couple of fields that the auditors are proposing or have on our priority list for 2026. One of them is kind of a feel-good bill. It hasn't been dropped yet. I think that there's one bill that we're maybe looking at trying to tag on to. And it is combining, I want to get the correct terminology, Temperance and Good Citizenship Day with National Voter Registration Day. So you may be familiar with Temperance and Good Citizenship Day. It's usually in January, and it is a state law that schools provide education around Temperance and Good Citizenship Day. The original intent behind Temperance and Good Citizenship Day was twofold. It was to promote good citizenship, but was also to educate young folks about frankly, drinking and unruliness. The law.
Never happens in Benton County.
Yeah. So realizing that it was established in 1923, some things have changed since then. And the primary focus now is on the good citizenship part. So the law was changed somewhat later, 1969. And it is primarily for promoting good citizenship. But then we also have what's called National Voter Registration Day. And it's kind of competing days that are doing the same thing. And so what the auditors would like to do is to combine Good Citizenship Day with National Voter Registration Day. And so that we can focus our efforts and education on a singular day, kind of not split those interests. So kind of a good feel-good bill, hoping that that can move forward. The second bill you're very familiar with, and that's the primary voters pamphlet. We continue to promote the idea that that's a missing piece, an important missing piece that the public should have as a primary voters pamphlet. It really comes down to cost. We had our first legislative committee meeting yesterday, and our support person, Mike Shaw, who the Honors Association has hired, tells us that anything that has any kind of a fiscal note is not going to go anywhere this year. So we'll see. We'll probably keep trying to move that bill forward. Our experience has been in the past that those important bills take a while, and so hopefully it makes some movement this year. And then the last thing I want to say is thank you to those of you that have been able to tour our new elections facility. There's an open invitation to all of you to, if you haven't had that opportunity, to come and visit and have my staff show the good work that they're doing. I thank you to the commissioners for making that happen. I think it was long overdue and money well spent. It's a tremendous facility and provides the opportunity for us here in Benton County to continue to do the good work in elections that we have. So happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks for opening up. And when Secretary of State Hobson's group was down September, I believe, we had kind of a day, we helped them around the area, kind of highlighted that effort. If you want to keep working that on an annual basis with some of the ideas that people were saying, came out to the college, we had a college kind of push as well, kind of tailored to that. And then students were starting to build that same kind of fostering them. Good candidate citizenship, getting involved in the elections, things like that. So thanks for you and your team as well.
Glad to have you. And I think that's a great idea that we try and do something annually and invite the public and the legislators to see what we're doing. Yeah.
I do have one bill. Did you talk to Brian Hatfield?
He was on the call yesterday.
Okay.
I had competing interests yesterday, so missed part of the meeting. Tell me.
Okay, wants me to lead with co-sponsor Richelli, working on voter notification and forms. More of a cleanup bill. He said he'd notify county auditors, but I want to make sure, didn't see it on the list, want to make sure it's on your radar.
Yeah, anytime.
If you have any concerns, please don't hesitate
Yeah.
like the other bills.
Happy to talk about that. Anytime we can have legislation that makes administrative improvements.
Yeah.
And I
No
think that
fiscal, so it should be good.
focused largely on the automatic voter registration. Trying to be nice when I say this.
Me too.
The complexity of the notifications that are required for that has been somewhat administratively a nightmare. So, yeah.
That's what he was sharing.
Yeah.
A lot of concerns with, not just Benton County, but counties in general, got together and concerns now that it's been implemented, some of the issues that are coming out. It's kind of cleaning up some of those and hopefully it rights the ship and gets through pretty easy with bipartisan support. So Kelly signed on right away. They'd have to kind of move that through the Senate and get it up to the House.
We would be appreciative, very appreciative of any help that you can provide in that. So. Thank you.
And Mr. Spencer, our esteemed treasurer who runs our investment fund for school districts, fire, whatever.
Well, the main thing that we're, as a trade association, renewable energy groups get a refund on their sales tax. And we're trying to get it so that the state wants to give it, great, but let the counties have it. We've had several counties that 3-4 years after the project was completed, all of a sudden, here comes the deal, and they want $2 or $3 million back out of the small counties. That's disastrous. And so we're asking the state, hopefully we can get them to agree that this counties get to keep their portion of the sales tax. Law, they want to help these companies come in, and some of the incentives to get here is they can give sales tax back. State can give it back, that's fine, but we'd like to, as counties, keep our portion because it's a big tax shift when it's given to the users of these wind farms or solar farms. So we're asking that's our main deal. Waco is going to be bringing that to you folks. I just want to bring it up today to hopefully our county will support that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I met with Josie from Franklin County and Gordon from Walla Walla County. I think it was last week or the week before, the last 10 days. And that was one of the main concerns they brought up. Also, so I'm glad you brought that up.
So is that agency, is Bo Chadi running that through his office, or is that gonna come through energy?
That'll come through, I'm not sure who's behind it.
Okay.
Wait,
I'm just concerned.
wait, it's one of the 5 or 6 that Waco's got this year
Okay.
that they're pushing.
Got it. We're getting a couple with the CCA funding, where that's going, and get more transparency on the credits, allowing flexibilities within that, but how again, that's being implemented the wrong way, so we gotta make sure we take the ship off it as well. So,
We appreciate your help.
sure thing.
Judges? Yeah,
I think we have anything to add.
okay,
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
yep. Judge, Joseph, you had said that one little item you said?
Yeah, just one little item.
Okay.
We do have, the Clerks Association does have 2 priority bills through Waco. But I know that one of our concerns is continued Blake funding, and I know that that's a money thing. But continued Blake funding is a big deal. Just to give you some idea of how long this has taken, it's been, I think, almost 5 years since the Supreme Court made that decision. And when they first made that Blake decision, I told them it would take us 10 years to clear all these cases, and they pretty much told me I was crazy. Well, here we are 5 years later. Benton County still has not gotten through half of the cases that we need to get through. I think we still have 13,000 cases to handle. We've handled 5,000. So there's a lot of work left to be done. And then just in the process of making changes to court forms, just keep in mind that it directly impacts the clerk's office when somebody says, hey, let's add this little piece. Well, it's a big piece because it may need to change the software, and then it needs to change what the clerks do and how we handle that process. So if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on our ledge committee. I'm not the chair, but I can probably answer any questions you have. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find it. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your time.
Adam?
Just a few kind of general or wrap-up thoughts, I guess, on this section. We put out our agenda every year, as everyone does, and then it's interesting. It's nice to go back at sort of the end of session. It's easy to focus on the things you didn't get, the things that did move through. We actually do pretty well every session, I think. And I think we have some good things that sometimes should be no-brainers, but we have Josh and folks like him doing great work for us, but it really comes down to you and the legislature, getting a lot of these bills done for us. And another thing that, I think that we do pretty well, and you'll see a couple of examples today, is, we tend to stay with it. If we didn't get there the first time or the second or even the third, we keep fighting for some of these things. And so, look forward to a little bit more of that this time around as well. But it also took me to sort of, I know you folks hear this a fair amount, but you should hear it. The strength of our delegation is a big part of this. I mean, we're a little overmatched geographically, from other parts of the state, and, we're overmatched maybe in a partisan way as well. But I think that we punch above our weight for the Tri-Cities, Yakima Valley, southeastern Washington, sort of the size that we have, the population base. And that's we don't expect our legislators to necessarily agree on every vote on every bill, but we have a lot of continuity and a lot of understanding of the topics and working together on things and working across the aisle. You're all very good at that, and that just really helps us out a lot. So we really appreciate that unity and that work. And we hear that a lot here. You go talk to TriDAC, Chamber, and the other folks that you interact with, they all say the same thing. I just really appreciate our delegation, and it refreshes from time to time as some of you retire or move on to other challenges, and new people come in, and that continuity just seems to be there. So we recognize that's why we like to host you for things like this and work with you. And just the other thing that both Matt and Mr. Delvin spoke to a little bit was funding. Since I'm kind of the lead on it, I always think about the .09 in Monroe County quite a bit. You refreshed that a couple of years ago, got an extension on that. Of course, it was originally adopted back in the 90s. That generates real money now, and it allows us and our partners, we distribute that money to the cities and the ports to do a lot of these things, either self-funded or provide a lot of our own leverage, or not ask you for funding or the federal. Recent examples, Matt talked about the things that were going on at the fairgrounds. We're putting $7 million in the Fairgrounds Welcome Center. And when you look out the window over here and you see the convention center, $81 million project, by the time we're done with our commitment with the city, because we're helping with that, we'll have over $11 million of .09 into that project with me. And so that fund now, Rural County, the .09 generates over $500,000 every month now. I mean, it's a real engine. We've had a number of great projects all throughout the community on that. So it's the legislature that made that happen. It's the legislature that has extended that, allowed us to be grandfathered and work on that. And we can put real leverage money into bigger projects now. So talked about bonding. I can't remember, others aside from that jail right there, I can't remember the last big project that we bond funded here. I mean, what's that? Health district, okay, health district, yeah. But we don't have to rely on that as much as a lot of folks do, because we're able to use some of these other tools to self-fund. So I just enjoy working with all of you, and I look forward to more of that this session. I look back on the sessions, I always think they go pretty well overall for us, even if we don't get everything we want.
Thank you, Adam.
We decided maybe you guys could teach the state a few lessons.
Josh's job. Take notes of that, bring it to the governor's office.
More than happy, anytime to go.
I think you might, I don't know, we have times we could bring you up to the governor's office.
Why not? One can speak.
You never know.
Sometime.
Look at the opportunities we could share.
Welcome, Senator.
Thank you.
Mr. Burrows.
Mr. Devlin, I just want to say on behalf of the courts, I know that legislative folks get inundated by the Office of AOC, the Administrative Office of the Courts, the Superior Court Association, the District Court Association coming before you. I'm just going to offer, if you have any local questions regarding the judiciary with respect to, like Josie said, Blake, the Office of Public Defense, the unmandated or mandated and unfunded bills that come before you that affect the court system, and you would like a firsthand knowledge of how it may impact, I'm just offering that if you would like to have that, one of us come and speak to you about it. I know I've been up there a number of times for the judicial education and a number of things that I've been up there for. I'm happy to do that, but I don't want to get lost in a number of bills that just seem to cross by you and that might affect the judiciary. And we all have lots of information. And I just want to say that here locally, if you have questions, please reach out. We'll be willing to answer your questions, answer your call. If you want us to come up, I'm happy to come up. Thank you.
Definitely fun.
I'm in.
Thank you.
It's great to pass. I know the first year being up there, you helped me on.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why I think we'll-
One is the thank you for your support for that, all those initiatives for the education.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. What's the best way to get a hold of you, sir?
I'll give you my phone number. You can call me directly.
Wonderful.
And then I'm happy to provide that. My personal cell phone.
Maybe he'll put you on his Christmas card list.
Yeah. Good luck. Please do. Good luck.
Hey, Judge Burrows, I think it's 1-800 Chick-fil-A.
All right, Commissioner McGarry. You can tell how they.
That's right.
Okay, want to move into our legislative agenda for 2026, and Matt started off with funding.
Sure, so we are gonna have two capital funding requests, this year. The first one is a community agricultural center, and as Representative Connors mentioned, we did a tour of the fairgrounds out there. One of the buildings we showed you, we currently refer to as Building 12 or the Rabbit Barn.
Yeah.
And so, it's right now used to host small animal shows, a lot of that during the annual fair. And if you've ever been in there when one of those shows is going on, you can see swamp coolers and fans tied up to the ceiling, and electrical cords draped everywhere, and it's often hot and doesn't smell well. And so we really feel like it's in a bad need of a rehabilitation. And so we went in and did a tentative estimate and figured out that we would like to develop it into more than just a barn for those, once a year shows, and make it into a center that 4-H, FFA could use, other not-for-profits could use. They could host small community events and things like that at a very low cost. We're not really looking almost a nearly free building to basically cover our costs. And so we really wanted to take it to that next level. That's going to require some work. It needs the reskinning of the outside. It's a metal building now. We'll keep it as a metal building. We're not looking for anything elaborate. But fix the roof, there's some leaks, and then put in an HVAC system that'll allow it to be occupied year round and support those small animal events that we have. So a few other things like cleaning up some cracks in the floor and some drainage issues around the outside. We're looking at about a $1.2 to $1.4 million project. The county has right now $200,000 to $400,000 that we can commit. So we'll be looking for an ask of around $1 million to get that done. And we can definitely break that into distinct pieces if needed, but we'd like to have that $1 million ask and be able to build that center and offer that to the community as part of our ongoing upgrades at the fairgrounds. The other project, not quite as cool, but still very, very necessary, is a replacement of the elevator in the Prosser Courthouse. And so the elevator actually is in the annex building, which is next to the historic courthouse, but even it's approaching 50 years old at this point. And that's still the original elevator. We kind of have a running joke to see whoever takes the elevator, whether or not people taking the stairs can beat them, and often the stairs win. So it really does need to be replaced. We were hoping to accomplish that as part of our 100-year celebration next year. And so we'd be looking for an ask of $250,000 to help with the cost of replacing that aging elevator.
And we took a tour of that recently.
Yeah.
They did mention that.
Yeah, and it's you never know if you're gonna make it to the third floor or not. if you're
Yeah,
taking
we
the
didn't.
elevator.
And it is a historic building, right?
Yeah.
That helps. It comes with risks. So those are our two capital asks. If you have any questions or need information on those as you're going through, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to provide that. We appreciate, as always, all the support that our delegation has given us on these capital asks over these years.
And I would say that I have the capital budget request forms. We'll be filling those out. This year, we're doing a little different, right? We have a couple projects that are district specific. Last couple of years, we've been doing the regional recovery center. So I'll be touching base with you, hoping that we can find champions, right? Thanks.
Sure.
I'm gonna touch briefly on OPD. OPD is still our number one issue. It is now.
Office of Public Defense.
Office of Public Defense. It is now and will be for the foreseeable future. So even though we don't have any specific requests this session, we want to make sure it stays on everybody's radar. It's an important issue. We still think the state as a whole needs to do more on public defense. Just as an example, our 23, we have a biennial budget, and in 23-24, our budget was $10 million. And the state reimbursed us $370,000. So with the Bar Association's new standards that came out in response, we adopted a 25-26 budget, almost double, so $19 million. And the state will reimburse us in 25-26 $550,000. You know, with the new standards where it's a reduction of 10% a year over the next 10 years, that will help, that will soften a little bit, but it's still an issue. we have a very good finance director, Linda Ivy. She's able to work some magic. So, for the 27-28 budget, we're probably gonna be okay. We're gonna have to move some things around. But after that, we're gonna have to reallocate resources. And that means cuts in other public safety sector departments. So just want to make sure it's everybody agree.
It's pretty vital.
Are you able to find public defenders? Be able to?
We still struggle with that. I think Keith can speak to that better than I can, but I know that it's gotten better. But we still compete with neighboring counties. You know, and I know we've had discussions with our cities. You know, we do public defense for the cities. You know, it's getting more and more costly. They're starting to ask questions on, you know, maybe they should go out on their own. And if they do that, all that's going to do is create more competition for the attorneys that aren't here. And there's also the issue of, you know, each jurisdiction can develop their own weighting standards. And now we're going to have jurisdictions potentially adopting different weighting standards. So what's more lucrative? Who's going to do less work for more money? It's just not a good situation. So Keith, if you have anything.
Yeah, happy to respond to that. Thank you.
Be another great Franklin County hire.
It is very difficult to find attorneys, particularly in our Superior Court felony panel for violent felonies, Class A. Those are difficult to find because there's certain qualifications. They have to have so many trials they've had to have chaired before they can be qualified to represent a client in that situation. And then, of course, district court, just the number of attorneys is we have a unique shortage. It's statewide. I know other counties are feeling the crunch too, but Benton County, it's a challenge. We don't have a law school here in the Tri-City. So we're recruiting from Gonzaga, from the University of Idaho. We put out feelers to Brigham Young University, Utah, University of Utah, Montana, all of the Oregon and Washington law schools. Get very few applicants, frankly. We would thank you for your support of the state OPD group that has put together this Rural Fellows program. We had an intern with us last summer. He will be sitting for the bar in July and joining our office next fall. So that has been successful for us. We'll have another one coming in, another intern coming in this summer. Hopefully that results in us developing a bench of attorneys to come into the practice. But we have pretty much sucked up all of the local bodies into the program now, either through employees in the office directly representing clients, or the 30 or so contract attorneys. We're constantly recruiting to fill those contracts with some other opening. Have a good relationship with the prosecuting attorney's office and managing caseloads to make sure that when they file charges, that we've got adequate defense representation, working with the bench, both the disciplines, Superior Court, to make sure that we don't run into the problem we've had in the past. But right now, we have good support from people that are making these decisions, good relationship with commissioners that understand the pressures of one. So we appreciate any support from them.
How many with the caseload standards that are going to be taking it back? How many attorneys do you say you would need and to fill that pipeline?
Well, we are trying to follow that Supreme Court standard of reducing it 10% per year. They recently have adopted some language that suggests that as early as the start of this year, 2026, some of these things go into place. But we will need, I don't have an exact number. It obviously depends on the number of cases that are filed, but probably another 10 to 15 attorneys would not be unreasonable for us in the next few years. And that number continues to go up as the caseloads have to go down.
So, we just had a tour locally because we were having trouble with law enforcement officers as well. And there's going to be a training center here locally. Have you talked to any of the universities about possibly starting a law degree program at a local university?
Yes.
Here, you have?
Yeah, I can speak on behalf of CBC, because lots of the paralegal and all the lower ends, to kind of get the entry, and the barriers to entry we were focusing on. That's the city, the community college, then build that pipeline into the 4 years and then into the other degree programs. I know we've done some work in the past on that. Just don't know how far we've gotten because I think it's frankly been less of a priority and a lot of people bias and we don't hear that from the easterns, the centrals and the local jurisdictions. I know we have MOUs between transfers of credits, being on higher ed, that's the first question I was thinking of, and workforce development. A lot of those are key process that, Senator Nobles and I, we were kind of talking about last week of what can we do about the next generation, the next pipelines.
Yeah.
And frankly, we've been focusing a lot with AI, a lot of the STEM, a lot of the technology kind of programs, that piece, but not really much in this sector as well.
Yeah.
So we got to get back to focusing on that.
Yeah, this is a perfect opportunity because there's a lot of change right now with the administration, federal
Yeah.
administration changing. I sit on the post-secondary education committee and I think anything we can do locally, this is the time for us to at least begin having those discussions. So I would say start getting together with local universities and begin talking about how do we start our own law degree program so that we're not, we can deal with our own local issues and not, be counting on other parts of
I
the
think
state.
Heritage has like
So-
pre-law only, but yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're trying to push something this past session too with the community colleges to see who could offer that, but they weren't at capacity to do so.
Yeah. Well, it's a time to start that discussion.
Supreme Court and the State Bar have been working to make some adjustments to lower the entrance cost to get into a law program. Made some modifications to the bar exam. Some changes what it requires to get licensure in the state of Washington. That will help. Technology has helped where there's a lot more online programs available now through accredited universities around the country. That is helping, but those things often take a few years to start to bear fruit.
If you were to go 5 years and go with a 10% reduction for the next 5 years on the fifth year, what did that make most counties? I mean, their budgets, that probably will be one of the most expensive departments within the county. I know law enforcement, sheriff's office right now, just like cities too, with their police departments, it's the biggest budget typically within the cities in the county, but that would probably could supersede just what we're doing on the law enforcement side. Would that be correct? Or
Yeah, absolutely. That financial ratio is gonna change. It's gonna affect the budget, as it was mentioned, but we're competing not just with folks here in the Tri-City, but county, Spokane, and cost of attorneys are continuing to go up. Their billing rates are getting very expensive.
so not only, we're looking at, the bodies as far as, public defenders, but we're also having to look at infrastructure to house them all. So you look at it both ways. It's twofold.
Yeah, and to your example, we were touring the great success of the Pasco Police Academy, having the regional effort with Senator Lovelock to push that out. And that's kind of a model we're looking at for the legal side of this as well. So maybe we could use a lot of the inputs, a lot of lessons learned from that one to do something we can help you out.
Appreciate that.
I think we need to acknowledge that, appreciate everybody's work on this. It's been years.
Yeah.
That we've been talking about this and that you doubled the amount of money last session that the state provides to counties. It's still, from $300,000 to $500,000. So still not very much, but that is significant. And thanks to all of you, but also we got to recognize Senator Torres, who has really made this one of her main priorities. I see the bills that you pre-filed this year working for Senator.
4 of them, and
Yeah.
Rep. Addison Richards have the companion bills in the House.
Yeah, just thank you so much, Senator. Really appreciate it. And all of you, but Senator Torres has been leading the charge on this, not just for the district, but for the state. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, I was in the legislature, I just remind myself, I tried to shut down all of our schools. Thought there were too many trial lawyers.
Things have changed since then.
Yeah. My forward thinking.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about, you may have read in the paper, the local paper, maybe heard too, their counterpart across the river there.
Yeah.
But one thing that's come up is it's been, start and stop on the splitting the judiciary district between the two counties. Because right now we have a bi-county judicial district with Franklin County and Benton County. And I think my understanding is we pretty much got buy-in this time with everyone. I think Franklin County certainly wants to do it now. over there are quiet in the past, but, you know, it's a small change in the RCW to split that. My mind, it's a small change, because I think we're the only joint judicial.
They just, Douglas Schland.
Oh, yeah, Douglas.
Yeah, there's still two.
But, so you know, we want to push that issue this year, because Franklin County's on board. I think your Sherry's on board, at least from what I'm hearing, you know. There may be some people out there, but not that I'm aware of. Maybe some of the lawyers, who knows what their thinking is. But I think it's time to happen. I think if two counties can stand on their own, there's certainly enough within Franklin County. It just be, you know, splitting up the judges, who goes to Franklin, who stays in Benton, that type of thing. For my mind, the cost is the administration cost is shared, which is, you know, because you have to staff a courtroom, no matter what courtroom it is, right? You gotta have everyone there, so it's administration that comes down. As maybe the only cost saving I can think of. Maybe the judges will weigh in on this too, but I know we're gonna have a piece of legislation for sponsors to get that entered and hopefully start working that process, maybe not next year, but maybe in the following years, just to get that judiciary split between the two counties. You know, it's been kind of going on is that we had a board meeting a month ago, maybe 2 months ago now. We had an open discussion there with the public about, you know, with the issues with Franklin County. And this my categorization of it is that it all came about when, you know, the lawsuits that were filed around the state. You know, I think there was two lawyers did advertising on Facebook. Yeah, if you ever thought you were abused as a juvenile in the 70s, 80s, contact. So I think they filed up around 300 lawsuits. But we benefited from some of those lawsuits. It's not benefit, but we received some of those lawsuits, and that's where we started having discussions in county on liability, because we have been operating that juvenile center. And so that started that conversation, and friends across the river didn't want to participate in any liability. They thought it was all ours. But I think they had a rude awakening from the insurance pool that they're just as liable as Benton County is. And so, you know, they wanted to get rid of human services. So we said, sure. But, you know, we ended up working with them in order, because you didn't want those services just cut off over in Franklin County. That was going to happen. Yeah. We worked out an agreement with them, so at least they could stagger that. Then they found out that if they weren't going to provide those services, they had to give that money to the state. So I think they changed their tune a little bit on that one, but it's come, you know, and so lately in the press, you know, that they want to do their own juvenile. We never heard about it until we heard about a letter they sent to the courts, the judges. And then, so, you know, that's the issue. We're gonna have a special meeting this afternoon. I guess they're having a special meeting this afternoon too, about that issue. Anyways, so at our meeting a couple months ago, I think it's been 2 months ago, that we decided we'll start splitting some of these agreements with Franklin County because of the liability issue. So we've been doing that, you know, everything needs to be wound down. We don't want to leave the public in the lurch, you know, for services or anything like that. So we've been working our way through that. Get that. So certainly can answer any questions you guys might have about any of that you've been reading in the press. And this is my editorial comment. That other side is being very dishonest with what they're publicly saying, because they're flat lying. They haven't talked to us about it or anything. So anyways,
Just real quick,
yeah. So splitting the judicial district, keep an eye out for that.
yeah, I think that is very important. I think both counties are ready to do that. I know the commissioner dealt, so that I strongly in favor of that. I think Franklin County would probably be the same, feels the same way. I know it all comes down to cost and administering, making sure we have good public safety, and that involves all the courts. The other programs that you talked about, I think, you know, we're looking at it at a cost cost, what it's gonna cost the taxpayers of Benton County, what we can manage. Yeah, so we're all managing our budgets, you know, you see that within the cities and all the counties statewide. Everybody's running into potential deficits, having to increase sales tax, those type of things like that. We have definitely been proactive here versus been reactive when it comes down to our budget. But we can only do so many type of things like that. So that's one of the things we're looking at reorganization and maybe taking on and separating some of our different by county and the local agreements, because once again, it comes down to the financial being, we set up our budget. I think Linda, we worked together. We actually reallocated funding. We've also consolidated funding, but there's only so much you can do in finance, right? Until you start getting down to where now it comes down to the brass tacks and still having actually balance. And I think next year will be a challenge for us. But once again, I think that's one of the also reasons why we would be looking at separating some of our interlocal groups, because it comes down to the budget money that we have to do on both sides.
Any questions?
Or I guess I could go jump in since I've been here the longest throughout this whole process. I know back to the first day, I think in the House, this was one of the first issues we addressed and we discussed, I think the first time within that. My thing is just keep us in track of just the transparency as it's moved through, as we're splitting, whether it's one agency or different services. Of course, the big thing is just the accountability back to the ratepayers and people in Benton and Franklin County keep getting into our inbox about what does it mean about costs? Are we gonna have enough as it splits? We're worried about, and shared this over with Franklin County Commissioners. Don't come back to us to state that you didn't do your due diligence to make sure you've covered this cost. And you know that, and we've had that discussion here on any of these programs that you split, you already anticipate, you're taking that on. How much to sustain it, not just to keep that going, but over those out years that are out there. The second piece is your question about the liability, because we're seeing that in the wildfire space right now. There's a lot of lawyers coming to the state because of what happened in Southern California. And no offense to lawyers, these are not the good lawyers that we're seeing. They're coming after counties, and we're seeing just south of Spokane County and even parts of Spokane County right now, we're hearing a lot of things kind of rooting up about our utilities, about different infrastructures, critical things that cities and county party put in place that are not meeting these things, and the robber barons going after quick money, I think, and they're going after it the wrong way personally. So we're worried about protection of our cities, counties, but also mainly the ratepayers. And as this transition goes through, keep us in the loop as it's heading out, because yeah, we're following this in the news, but we'd rather hear from you guys on how this is going on the different crossing T's, dotting the I's.
And Senator Binky, to that point, I know that Commissioner Delma brought up human services.
Yeah.
And so human services was pretty much severed. We had talked about as far as the commissioners and our staff. And we looked at that too. That was severed. We were kind of surprised. It was going to, we reached out in good faith. And I think it was an important thing to do for both sides, because we can go ahead and collaborate. I think we can do that, but it was going to be services were going to be cut. They were going to be interrupted, and it trickles down. The trickle down effect that affects people, whether it's emergency rooms or healthcare insurance, those type of things. It's a big picture, and so we opted to go ahead and take it out to June of 26, so services won't be interrupted.
Right.
And that also helps Franklin County set up a program and an agency to go ahead and perform those tasks as well. So
and that's what that's the transfer keeps us in the loop, because we get this blindsided. We don't have the whole context that you do. And that's the transition plan that we want to concern about, that both sides are at least transitioning. We do it. And we heard about a lot of that with our DD community. That was a big one that came out was you're going to separate. We're not going to have anything to support. And then our Veterans Therapeutic Court was another one that jumped into my inbox as well. I said, no, they got it covered. Everything's good. But that's when I had to reach out to you guys and your staff. So I appreciate that.
The health district's the next one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I figured that coming up. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where they want to leave that too.
Keep us in the loop.
Thank you for that. Next, Adam, back with energy.
I'm back clean up on a few things here. I'm at ease. Economics, environment, energy, clearly elections in there. So just kind of going back to the sort of the document here, let me just touch briefly on a few of these. Targeted urban areas, that's been very interesting to see Richland roll that out here locally, and we've done that as well in concert with them. I'm not aware of anyone else in the state quite fighting on to this, but I can't imagine that they won't. Maybe they're just waiting to see a few of these things sort out. Our issue on this, we've worked with Rep Barnard on it. The communication with her is, we're looking for this tweak to add a little more time. There's a 10-year window that you have to have this implemented in for a lot of folks, that's fine, but what we're really looking at is some of the nuclear type of stuff where you need Nuclear Regulatory Commission or other sorts of regulatory action. And that can take 3 or 4 years right at the beginning, just before you get going. But a lot of the folks that want to take advantage of TUA, they want to kind of do that at the beginning so they know that they have that in their pocket. And then the clock starts to turn and you're 2, 3, 4 years into it before they start really doing any instruction. So we're just trying to add some time to that. And that's what this bill 1210 will do. See the 2 elections items on here. Auditor already spoke to those. I think I got a typo on the SB 1285. That doesn't look right, but
It's not.
okay, we'll get that fixed. But there's the 2 items that Brenda spoke to, Laura's pamphlets and the National Voter Registration Day. So keep that on your radar. We've got a housing item here that we're supporting. This is mostly a WASDAC deal that they've been pushing, but this has to do with the detached accessory dwelling units in GMA counties such as ours, rural lots outside of UGAs. We support that bill. You see the 2 energy bills there. You know, we take pride in being, I think we're as it says here, the epicenter, the heart of energy in the Northwest and certainly in Washington State. We want to see nuclear energy integrated formally into the Washington State energy strategy. This is a big part of what we have been doing here and what we will continue to do, nuclear energy. And then,
We got a couple more we're offering up. Like I said, the one about CCA. So people are really pushing, at least on our side, we've discussed a lot about where that funding's going. We have an issue when it's going to places that is causing fraud in our state. You've heard about this probably in the Seattle Times and a couple other articles. Brandy Cruz is probably the most notable that pushed it out in the national news about how this money's going to friends and families into these programs. We're going after a couple of those, and that kind of goes to the energy parts of it. The credit allowing the flexibility within hydrogen, as well as new nuclear advisory. So kind of work with Rep Barnard on those, but getting it through commerce so we can allow funds to come out quicker, faster, better. Senator Wynn, now Director Wynn, is on board, kind of helping us through the commerce piece of that. And then third one is really going after a novel concept. You'll love to hear this. So when you actually build something in our state, the money goes to our state first, and then the power goes to our state first before it goes to anybody else. Really complex bill, but it hasn't been passed in the state yet. So I got that on the list. I'm getting ready to drop that thing, get that going, because Florida's done it, Tennessee, other places done it, blue and red states. So why can't we, if we're gonna take the burden and actually going through this for their cities, counties, to actually have this? And I think it was JFK who did it during the hydro systems when they built them back in the 60s. It said the power's gonna come here so the ratepayers get reduced rates for years to come because we have to take the burden on what these infrastructures are happening. It's the same concept. We're just bringing it back with this new nuclear and a lot of these projects.
well, that's great. I mean, we'll exchange some of these bills and whatnot, so we can be supporting what you're working on. And
Thanks.
we're all on board, you know. And you mentioned some of the other states, you know, we get this, some of our forums that we have on new energy. Not necessarily in this case, that it's a competition. I guess it sort of is, but, you know, we're falling behind.
We are.
We are. Texas. I mean, they're doing things and we're stagnating. I mean, we're doing things too, but we're finding other folks they're taking bigger steps, we're taking little steps.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to push the governor's office. And these bills, Brett Barnard, a lot of the other efforts we're doing as a team, kind of pushing the governor, kind of step out more than Inslee did,
Yeah.
frankly. And then getting out there and being courageous as leaders and saying, hey, let's fight, let's work in this committed nature. So then the community and even the industry starts seeing that we're still a player. We want to be a player for years to come.
I will say, you're 6 of you are probably aware of this, but it hasn't gone unnoticed that in a short time, not even a year yet, Governor Ferguson's been over here quite a bit.
Yeah.
Inslee wouldn't even come here anymore for a secret trip. And Bob Ferguson's I've been with him over here, tried it 3 times this year. And so, I mean, I think he's at least taking an interest in trying to make some connections here and trying to learn what we're doing. So, you know, trying to be optimistic.
We are too. And we're trying to push that wave of support with him and his staff, of course, and then the other agencies that we're working on. So hoping that building relationship that helps with all the other efforts we're trying to do.
Excellent, okay.
Can I add one thing? So this House Bill 1960, that has to do with the depreciation of renewable energy projects, we talked about this. You pulled me into a caucus meeting late at the end of last session talking about this, and at the time, we didn't really have a position. We've looked more closely at it now, and this is addressing a pretty important issue. That we now are willing to say we support this bill and would like to see it come forward. So I'm happy to talk in more detail about it, but I wanted to highlight that because last year we had that conversation. Yeah. I think Representative Ram was trying to do a very good thing here in working with the association.
Of all the stuff he's done, this is one of the things, let's put it that way.
We think this-
Not that we agree a lot of what he's doing, that's one.
So last night I was up at 1 o'clock because of my knee and,
You're watching TVW?
no, I was watching the podcast. And I saw April, which she was on Brandy. Yeah, watched that. So thanks for introducing that legislation about stacking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
yeah.
that's criminal.
It is criminal.
I mean, you look at Minnesota, they're now predicting 9 billion worth of fraud.
Huge.
I wonder just how much of that's.
We're gonna see a lot more coming out. We're pushing a lot about going after the fraud
Good.
and the tort reform and DCYF and some of the other agencies, so.
Right, good.
Sorry, I know that was for our.
Yeah,
That's good enough.
that's what I was watching the podcast. for.
Yeah.
Or
Well, you
this
need to get
morning.
some sleep. We hope you get better sleep.
Yeah, hopefully it'll come back.
A few more items, folks. Well, I'm sorry Rep. Fruit isn't here, but like I said earlier, you know, we, even big and small, we bite onto things, we stay with them, with you till the end. You know, he's got his financial prerequisites thing. We see that the state treasurer seems to be interested in this topic. So maybe there's a way to reconcile some ideas, but we're gonna keep supporting financial education.
It got pirated.
Big pipe, yeah, he's.
It got pirated.
The state treasurer sold-
Yeah,
He
by,
hijacked it.
Yeah.
To say the word.
which just, yeah.
Well, we're gonna keep giving Rep. Fruit his credit.
Yeah, he needs to get the credit for it because when it went through committee, Senator Wellman didn't really care about hearing it too much, but now that one of the members of, 812 is introducing it, it's gonna get a hearing to get supported. Which-
Yeah, now it's a great idea.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
crazy how
yeah,
it works.
yeah, totally. No, I remember on the floor, right at the end, Wellman says, no way, it's not gonna get made into a, required graduation, requirement.
That's crazy.
And then here it's gonna get introduced and it'll go through and, the senator that hired it is gonna get the credit.
No, Rude's gonna get the credit. We're gonna keep pushing and thank.
Yes.
Get a lot of the heavy lift, so you're right. We're gonna keep supporting them.
Hey, we're gonna get the state cactus over the finish line.
That's the bigger, I was waiting on
You were
that.
waiting on that.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Don't
got,
you have some in your yard now?
yes. Oh, my God. We got a voice. Senate last.
So you, Adam, you're telling us this is personal right now. You and Senator Warnock?
That's right.
That one?
4 years.
Hey, is that-
Give it there.
Okay.
So we've got some plans, we got some things we're gonna do, so I'm hoping we got all the committees. We got right up to the 1 yard line in the house, and then it didn't get pulled to the floor.
Those house people.
We'll get it to the house.
For the love of God, please pass this.
Wow.
Tired as.
We don't get anything else done. Celebrate that.
You don't notice the cactus guy.
It doesn't have to.
No fiscal, okay.
It's unanimous.
Because the house people can't get this.
I'm gonna take April Connors on a tour of state cactus.
Yeah,
have a tour of the
I
state.
want to see that. Yes.
Really?
You know, another one that we have some real personal interest in around here, it's Veteran Cemetery. I know,
Yeah.
Commissioner Alvarez was very important to him. I think that's moving along.
Good.
I do think that location in Richland will be selected. Richland, you know, working with the state on this. We just want to keep that on the radar screen.
And thanks for the help on that. And Mike, appreciate leading, and Jerome, all the meetings we've been through and all that. So
Yep.
appreciate the time and effort you've been taking on doing this. Keeping it moving. We got a good update from West Richland, keeping that going as well. And even, David Fuentes from the state, keeping me in the loop on that. So he knows it's on our radar. I keep pushing it, keep nagging on him to make sure this is moving forward.
Yeah, either location, works. I think whether it's in West Richland or Richland,
Yeah.
we have 40-some thousand veterans within a 75-mile radius. This would be huge for our area of veterans that are have served here.
Thanks.
Four more things just to mention real quick. We just want to keep the wildfire resilience, item on the radar screen. That was, the bill from 2021-1168, I think, was to fund that for biennium. We're in the third one now, but look, when we had the fires last year, especially last year, we had two on the same day out here. I can't remember seeing that kind of aerial support. There were 4 scoopers plus a tanker worker. Okay, I lived here 31 years, never saw anything like that before. So I'm sure that that's probably connected to the money that's put into DNR for that kind of stuff. And that's crucial. And, we'll have more getting water now. So we're going to have weeds, we're going to have a lot of growth, and we're probably going to have fires this year. So that makes a big difference, especially having that aerial support. So we just want to keep that on everyone's radar screens. I think you've become familiar with the water stargraphs issue. We don't have any specific asks for this year. We're just keeping everybody educated about that. We're curious to see if this flood event gets some scour in the river and sort of retards that a year or two, because stargrass it's become a really big issue in the lower 50 miles of the Yakima River. I always make sure we get the invasive species stuff here on here. You heard about freshwater mussels in the past. We've got this Japanese beetle issue that the state's really doing a great job trying to fight back. It's just hard to do once something gets going like that. But credit to the Department of Agriculture and Fish and Wildlife is helping them as well. And the one thing you will hear about next year, but we'll just put it in here for now, is in next year's session, we'll have an ask in for a state land transfer program for some property out in Badger Canyon, conservation and recreation fees. DNR solicited us on this. They said, I think they found that they're not going to have much use for this property. They invited us to apply to get this item in the state land transfer program. 270 acres of DNR property out there. It won't come up until next year, but planting the seed now, and we'll be back to you to support that in next year's session. Sure, that's all I have.
Commissioner Alvarez.
So Senator Torres, I'm glad to see you here. I'm sliding something in. It's one of those things where, we represent a county, all the cities within the county. There's a small, and your districts always confuse me because they're so jogged all over the place sometimes. So, oh my gosh.
Districts.
But you were down in Prosser talking to Mayor Vega or something like that. We've worked hard to collaborate with the city of Prosser. We just gave a big win to the Benton city here with it last week, I believe. And so we went ahead and worked with them to have their city hall in our courthouse on the first floor. That was pretty cool.
Just moved into it, yeah.
Yep. And we have an old engineering building right there on campus as well. They're looking for a place for their new police department. They have XYZ amount of funding available. If there's any way, if you guys think about this, in the city of Prosser, if it's any potential funding, so they have to go out to such a large bond that they decide to go for a bond, and that would be really great to help them and their law enforcement and the police department, city of Prosser. So I wanted to put that out there because that would really be cool if they could have their police department built right on campus and support, our courtroom security more. And it's such a location to where I think that police department will be very well supported and used. So I want to just bring that up. Gotta take care of my district.
Thank you. That was hinted during mid-work.
I figured you probably would. Thank you.
Senator Pinky, you mentioned tort reform. We don't have it on our agenda, but it is definitely a priority, and you'll hear this from, I think, from all your local governments. Obviously, the state is going to be thinking a lot about this year for their own liability because of the massive budget impact, because of the sexual molestation cases that are coming up now. Counties are facing proportionally as large a problem with tort reform, actually having a hard time getting insurance even. There will be local governments talking to you this session about different ideas on tort reform. From my perspective, I think it's really important, the most important thing, that whatever the state does for itself, that counties and cities aren't left out. I have a hard time believing in a short session, it's gonna be a massive tort reform fix. If there is any sort of fix that goes forward and it doesn't help counties and cities too, it'll be, so happy to, this is gonna change, I'm sure, a million times in 16 days, but if we can help on that, it's.
Happy to. I know Chris Gildon's got a really good setup for us.
Yeah.
And it's a multi-pronged approach on different areas. Ron, of course, is focusing on DCYF because it's right in his district and the areas, what's going on there and human services. So Leonard Christian's kind of leading that piece with Ron, but Senator Gildon's kind of looking at the overall, with Senator Torres Health through Ways and Means, kind of looking at those areas we can go after the different sectors as well. So.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect segue. Thank you for that, Senator Benke. We have been in conversations, Senator Gilman and I and fiscal committee staff as well about, making some changes under DCYF along with Senator Braun. So you'll see a couple of bills come through this session, and one of them is the administration, because one thing that we have noticed is that it has grown department heavy. I mean, government's grown completely. A lot. The number one employer, I think, probably right now in the state has grown. And one of those places that we've really honed in on is DCYF because of all the tort claims. And we're looking at shifting some people into CPS because what we really need is more frontline workers or boots on the ground, and that's what we are lacking. And that's one of the ideas that we're looking at for a bill. So just to give you an idea, but there is still more to come on that.
I had heard a rumor that maybe the Senate majority is considering moving these types of claims to an alternate type of dispute resolution rather than just everything going to trial. That may be helpful as well. So I think there'll be lots of things. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing came to mind is I serve on the Executive Public Works Board, and thank you, Senator, for mentioning that, keep that funding going, because we're doing a lot of good projects.
We're gonna try. They're gonna swipe it already. They're telling us. So
Yeah, I know.
again,
I may go back to Olympia in January, first time.
May.
Here.
Oh,
May,
okay, we'll tell the. Ready,
may pop in.
well, ready the population.
Yeah, one thing I keep forgetting, the undersheriff back there, anything from the law enforcement, statewide or anything you guys know?
Lost pick obviously.
Yeah, Waspik, yeah, okay, okay. I just want to turn it over to you, whatever order you guys want to go for any comments, we'll let you get out of here. Huh? Oh, we have lunch too for you guys, so you gotta stay around.
I came for lunch. What are you?
Oh,
No offense.
I think it's make your own sandwich. We done the Spanish last time.
Are there priorities?
not chicken.
No, I'm out of here.
With Will.
You're doing the food run, right? Chick-fil-A.
Nikki told me to go ahead and start. So just to kind of kick it off, I think it's important for everyone to know the spaces that we all work in. I'm obviously in the House. I serve on the Appropriations Committee as Assistant Ranking Member, and then also on the House Housing Committee and on the Rules Committee, the full bills like the cactus bill to the floor. But then I also serve as the floor leader, so if that didn't make it to that floor, that could have been actually my fault. So we'll chat about that.
It's gonna be a prickly situation.
The floor keeps me very, very busy when I'm in session. I work a lot with the business community, but I also am helping decide which bills, at least from our side of the aisle, get pulled to the floor. Doing all the amendment and debate strategy for all of those bills. So I tend to have my hands into pretty much every bill that's coming through. I remember Rammel's bill really well last year. We helped at least provide a couple of votes, I think, in appropriations to try to say this is important to me to move it forward. And I remember we did that with him. Some of the areas that I've been working with a lot is usually housing. I do a lot also in the space of our youth employment, especially as our kids coming out of skills centers, which I know isn't necessarily a county issue right now, but it is a big issue in the state. One of the things that I've worked on a lot this interim is shrub step issues. Benton County's done some really great work. We've done a lot of roundtables together. We've been working with all cities, Kennewick, Pasco, Richland, West Richland. And in that process, we've also been working on making sure that there's SECRA exemptions that they're able to take, or everybody's moving up to a similar threshold. So we've been working on that. There potentially might be a shrub step bill coming. We're working on something right now that I'll work with all of our stakeholders to make sure we have Benton, Franklin, and the cities on board for that legislation before we would run it. The other thing, I have a fun bill I'm going to talk to Brenda about that I think she might like, but I can do that offline. The other thing that I'm working on this year that especially anybody that's interested in building and developing and the county and the city is I'm working with the Building Industry Association of Washington. We dropped a bill to put a 10-year moratorium on changes to the state building code council unless they are for health and safety reasons for the increase in housing costs in Washington. Obviously, affordability is the biggest issue, and trying to get affordable housing is important. Apparently important to the governor too. He's going to find $250 million to put into affordable housing and start a Department of Housing, which that'll cost the state a lot of money. But again, the affordability factor. But looking kind of forwards, a couple of the things I think you guys should really be thinking about is there are a lot of bills on taxes, especially maybe a state income tax, and that affects people personally. But there's also another bill that was put out there that they would tax anyone making over $125,000 a year, and that would be a tax on businesses. So that would be a tax on the city and counties and school districts and everyone else to have to pick up that tax. And so it's something you guys should be aware of going into this session. The one thing that I really appreciated about Benton County, and Adam, thank you so much, is whenever I say, can we tour that? Adam's like, of course we can set up a tour to do that. But we learned so much by going out and seeing it. And I would say, you know, between going to the fairgrounds this year, the Stargrass tour to me was absolutely eye-opening. I had no idea the problem was that bad. And we decided you need to get a group of farmers out there to figure out how they you know, haul wheat with something beside them so that they can take it out of the water at the same time. Yeah, bugs or dozers. But it is eye-opening to be able to go and see the problems and the issues that we're having and where we can be helpful. And so keep up the great work on the tours.
There will be more on the way.
I just got a couple of, you've already heard a couple of things, energy and environment, but thanks a lot of help on Rep. Barnard's bill and continue to push energy as one of our primary, of course, being the capital and central location, a lot of it. You're gonna hear a lot from me on grid reliability because we're hearing about that from the increase, not only from the task force with artificial intelligence that we're working on. You're gonna see probably 5 to 10 bills on that. We'll see how those go. A lot of those are protecting children, so this back to judges and things. Children online, I was asked recently to run the Australian bill that mandates that we shut down at 16. No 16-year-old or under be on social media. Still working on if that's good or bad. Haven't dropped yet, but there are several others that are trying to look at, like Rep. Ruth's bill of taking the phones out of the classrooms, getting into K through 12 so we can get them back to focus. And really it's a mental health space. So thanks, Matt, for helping out with the Recovery Center. This is one of the models we're showing people that the need has grown since COVID, that we have to go after a lot of these. And big tech is starting to come to the table and saying, yeah, there is a problem we need to work with you on. So AI is going to be a big proponent in that piece. Data centers, of course, as well. So we had the data center task force. We had the final recommendations ready to go to publish when a small tribe just northwest of here said, we want to go back to the drawing board. So they're meeting currently, we're in meetings with them and the governor's office about tweaking some of those recommendations moving forward before those come out. And then some individuals, some senators are looking at pulling those bills moving forward. Right now, Rep. Berg and I have already looking at extending some of those tax incentives that are on the books now because they're getting ready to sunset in 26. Those are probably immediately going to go forward. So you'll see that because those are bipartisan. They're not changing a thing. It's just moving that out. Allow us to be competitive in this environment. But others, like working with the unions and the tribes, there are going to be some tweaks on where that goes, whether it's contracting locally, where that power goes locally, and even the costs. We're kind of getting into that kind of muddy in the water to see where we can get the details and make sure we don't have that much impact on the ratepayers and increasing the cost of electricity into our utilities or passing that on to the ratepayers over the next couple of years. Yeah.
Do the tribes want to host those, or are they more
They
worried
want-
about the power?
They want to host and the power.
Oh, okay.
And then this pulls into the third one is the transmission lines. So you're hearing a lot about a transmission authority or even the state moving into what we call an RTO, which is the Regional Transmission Authority Office, which most of the other states have. And they want us either to move to the California one or to create our own. Right now, we have 33 separate entities of utilities of different sizes, shapes, and colors, and none of them talk to each other. I mean, we do, but we don't. So trust me, this is a bigger animal that I want to take on, and we're part of a Western kind of caucus that are working together with all the way friends from Montana down to Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, that are trying to put these pieces together. But I think you're going to see a lot of that from Rep. Dolio and Senator Shoemake of moving the transmission authority forward. Do we need to have a full department? We don't think so, like you mentioned on the housing. We don't think a bigger government is the answer. We do have places with Director Wynn. We're in the Energy Department now in Commerce. We have places we can plus up. We can add to them. We can support them over the out years and keep them going. It's a lot simpler, a lot easier, but maximizes their efforts. And a lot of this goes to the BPA interconnect that we've been working on for the last 10 years that everybody knows about, trying to get it through Richland, trying to get it out. And then even down through Oregon and into Idaho, the long connect that we haven't seen a lot of movement on. They're doing things under the water now from Portland to Vancouver, and it's moving through IFSEC with an okay from the tribes. So we're seeing at least some areas that we can work together with our tribal partners and other stakeholders. So we'll see if this kind of moves forward. So you can see some action that way. And then of course, the transparency and accountability into the CCA funds, because we're looking at those funding options going forward. A lot of people from the young man over here in transportation who's trying to grab a lot of that or assist with some of our infrastructure needs. That's Senator King will say in a second. But yeah, where we do this the right way, and it really comes down to, if we're going to build it, I know here's another novel concept. If we build it, we want to know where the money goes and then have some kind of accountability that actually did something to what we said it was going to do. I know that's strange, but we're trying to get back to those kind of concepts that we think are easy enough to go after. And the governor's kind of said, yeah, we're here to support. So whether it's the Dairy Gold project out here or even the Atlas Agro one, we're going to keep pushing, try to see if we can get some incentivization, tax credits or some kind of flexibility in that. I got a bill with Atlas Agro moving through, but it's really the hydrogen piece into nuclear power, kind of the complex nature in the policy. And really, when the policy was implemented, like anything, if it's not my bill, it's, my bills are always perfect. Other bills, we always have to work on and come back later, of course. Not mine, of course. Mine are always through the right way the first time. This one, we have to go back through and tweak. We got to make sure the CDES stuff is done properly, and especially the CCA funds. And I would throw out the higher ed and workforce amount. We've got a couple things. We're tweaking the FAFSA, try to get more students into higher education. So it gets into a point to where we can speed up the process with parents, do the multicultural. We have multi-languages with FAFSA, get them out to the higher ed connection to K through 12, so our counselors in the high schools get a better idea, better education, get that into earlier and almost into the 8th grade level to where we can make sure we can start that process. We're seeing Louisiana of all states moving the needle. They're over 90% acceptance rate. We basically borrowed that. We've met with their state officials, and we're using theirs as a pilot. We did it in Renton this last couple months, and it seems to be going really well. We're just going to take that to the state level and kind of move that forward. We have a couple others in higher ed. Eastern came to me about the class load enrollment. If low enrollment equals not enough time and space, then we're going to start eliminating some of those classes. So we're focusing on efficiencies and effectiveness in our government. So hopefully that will go through as well.
On the data center, is that the tax, the waiving of the taxes on replacement equipment?
Replacement equipment, but also modernization. And then if it goes in, we want to incentivize. So like the West Richland model, if it goes near a residential area, that a lot of the district heating can go into there. That reduces the costs on ratepayers. You don't have to get a third party to come in and heat the homes. That heating will go straight into that area. And we've seen it in Virginia as a different model. We're just trying to move that through there. But yeah, the tribes want to have some of the interconnect piece and actually the construction parts of where that power is gonna go, so. And then, of course, Grant County's, we're working up with them, Alex Ibarra and Senator Warnick, projects in Grant County, to try to get them up to speed as well, so.
Senator, I did want to mention one thing. You brought up FSEC and, we kind of specifically other folks in the area might have a bit of a strained relationship with FSEC. But one of the things we didn't put in here, this year was anything anti-FSEC. So,
Appreciate that.
try to build a little bit of a bridge, talk to, Kurt Beckett a few times on some things, and, we still have our issues and 4/7 and other things. Still plenty of that, but, we kind of called off the attack dogs, legislature, a few public places, try to see if we can, maybe there's a way for a bit of a reset button or find some ways that they could work a little different, if we can work with them, or, at least try to do that.
I appreciate that, because that's where we come in. The whole part of this democracy is having that debate. And let's have that, civil discourse that we can bring to the table. And Kurt came out, he met with us many times, hosted at this young lady's house. And we went to the fair together, kind of speaking on this piece, but he knew that part of where he had to reach out to us as well. And one of his first things through the nomination process, and I give Brian kudos at the UTC as well. He said, no offense to our predecessors, we want to be more outgoing, we want to be in the communities, we want to build that rapport as well. So they're meeting us halfway. And I think it's up to us to kind of do the same, and sharing that with you and having you guys set up, up as well is really important to building that relationship. So it's.
I must have the boring committee. I'm not that busy.
Well,
I'm not earning my money.
I'll send it all over to the.
Important with the capital budget.
Yeah,
I know, that's the plan.
or no, taking care of Chesler. Yeah,
Taking care of self.
I'm taking care of Chesler. I mean, that's part of your job.
Yeah, no, nobody takes care of them, believe me. No, you will do what I do. Or what I say. Basically, on business, finance, and trade, the committee that I've been ranking on, we really haven't had any big issues come up with banking lately. It was about 5 years ago, like 4 years ago or something, when credit unions and community banks were having a nice little struggle. I've had conversations with community banks. Obviously, again, they're very concerned with the increase in B&O taxes and being able to stay competitive. With the credit unions are saying, hey, don't do anything to us, type of thing, but,
It's like the dental wars and the iron wars. They
Yeah,
still go on.
so it's been kind of quiet.
They still go on, don't they?
The one that's out there though is all these insurance issues since, Senator Cooter went to the commissioner of OIC. It's been very interesting. Just remember, she was a trial attorney. You'll hear that multiple times from her. But I think there's been a lot of interest or a lot of concerns with obviously the rising cost of insurance, and especially now in fire-prone areas, and even being able to get it or renewals and everything. It's putting a tremendous financial burden on a lot of people. I think we're going to hear and see some of those issues that come up this year. Education that I've been on for 5 years, this is definitely with as many issues that we've had with our schools, especially coming out of COVID. I think we have something like 18 in binding conditions right now throughout the state. We have one that's going to be, they're talking about dissolving the district, which has not been done since 2007, since the Vader School District. It also happens to be the district where I graduated from, Prescott. So been working hard on that. There's some funding out there to potentially help with them, but a lot of issues I think that we have with education, increasing costs. I think we're going to probably see another request for increasing MSOC for our schools. It didn't keep up. So that I think is going to be a kind of a contentious committee this year, and especially because there's no money. How are we going to be able to do that? I won't really get into Ways and Means because I'm only going into my second session with it.
And he loved it.
I absolutely just love it.
Right?
I really like the way when I got on it, it says the meeting starts at 4 to 6, but no, it's meeting starts at 4. There is no end time. So just don't even put 6 o'clock on there. Just leave it alone. Capital, You brought it up, yes, we are gonna have some bond capacity. Unfortunately, I think our 2 cash accounts are gonna get swept. There is no doubt about that. We're third on the food chain and, everybody's gonna be sweeping cash accounts out of there from, climate commitment and Mott Cut. Kind of the focus has been, last year was a lot on housing and water. It looks like there's, and talking to Senator Schessler, sounds like water's kind of coming a little bit more to the forefront, the issues that we have with water, especially like what we've seen in the Yakima Basin, and we still have a lot of other projects to finish up on that. Obviously, it's great I enjoy that committee because when you get to spend the money for people that makes good things happen, it's a lot more rewarding because you aren't necessarily taking their tax dollars away, I feel. But a lot of the requests, I remember about the Veterans Cemetery, yes, was that requested last year too? Or did?
It was,
Last couple of years.
it was
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
Planning money, yeah.
Yeah.
This year's brack was the request. for this
Okay,
year's brack.
okay, since last year was my first year hearing it, yes, so, for, on the Senate side, I will say, I know that we're getting, established a dollar amount that we get to have.
Goal.
House is just,
I said it's a goal.
yeah, but, what I found out, there's lots of buckets out there, so
Yeah.
we get to move a lot of things around. So looking forward to see what we can do for the good, projects that you guys will be submitting.
Look in the couch real deep in there.
Yeah, yeah, we'll start to.
Right.
And the governor did say his 250 million that he's asking for is coming out of the capital budget.
I did see that.
Yeah,
I did
know.
see that.
Be very aware.
Yeah, I read that.
So one of the great pieces of advice I was given when I first got elected is don't serve on any financial committees because you work long hours and weekends and you can just get the stuff you want on your own anyway. So don't waste the time. And then I came in the Senate, I was low seniority, so I had to serve on transportation for
What
quite a
did
few years.
you get?
Huh?
And what did you get?
I
The
don't remember.
Dupertail Bridge.
Oh, I was out of there by then.
Now,
I think
That
that
was
was like.
still your bridge.
Commissioner, I do have to tell you this. See, I did it different than you. You went to the state, then to a commissioner.
Right.
As a commissioner with only 3 of you, you just gotta look to your left or right and convince one of your buddies and, man, you get stuff done.
That's what I tell them, quit talking. You only need, you got 2 votes. You don't have to sit there and go on. Oh my God.
Yeah, you I found out the other way.
That's good for talking. We're kidding.
There you go.
Okay, well,
I enjoyed Mary Margaret Howe.
Oh, yeah.
It's good ideas in
this
transportation.
is the guy this is the guy that's got all the money to fix roads.
Yeah.
Your idea. Anyway. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. I always appreciate this. I still feel like I'm new. I still feel like I'm learning, and I know I am. We found out we got part of this area, last year. And we were a little busy all year long, on other circumstances, and fortunately, we were successful with those, so we're back. But ranking on transportation, and also ranking on labor and commerce. Transpo, our biggest challenges are finishing the projects we started, the mega projects. We gotta finish those, get them out of our hair. The cost, the longer it takes, the cost just keep going through the roof. But maintenance and preservation has always been a real challenge, and we're billions of dollars behind. We gotta figure out a way to get caught up with that. We thought we had, in the Senate, we put forth a budget this year that would put transportation back on the map. The powers that be over in the House didn't want to hear any of it. We ended up with basically not much.
See a
So
trend.
now you have flooding, and the roads and the bridges, and we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with that. I mean, the governor has said Highway 2 as an example, it'll be months before it's reopened. Well, okay, if it's gonna be months, then all the people that used to use that, all the freight, everything, they gotta go a different route. Which means they're putting more miles on their vehicles, means they're burning more gas and diesel, means they're putting more emissions into the air. So
when we go to fix Highway 2, logic would say, let's use some CCA money to do that, because if we fix it, we're gonna eliminate putting all these extra emissions into the air, and we're gonna improve our environment. That will not sell, I can guarantee you, but it should. And I could go on, but that's gonna be one of our challenges is, and we still don't know how many millions, if not billions of dollars we're gonna be behind because of all of these, roads that have been washed out and bridges that have been weakened and all of those kinds of things. Work well with the chair, have for years. He worked well with me when I was chair, and we've kept that relationship going, and that's, in my opinion, very beneficial. We always want to look at safety, and I always get the road, but it's the 365 between Ritzville and 390. See, I do it every time. Between Ritzville and Pasco and those cross sections. We can't keep having people killed at those sections. The one project we did last year was up at Deception Pass. That was a new project. It was I think about the only one that we did. And it was because we had people jumping off that bridge. I mean, 2 or 3 a week at times. It was unbelievable. We got to do something to make that, to stop it.
Orca food. So Senator King, I do have a question for, I don't know if this is something you can do or not. I spent a day with one of our deputies up on Port Seven Hills, and there is a road that we're working on, and there was 2 fatalities within the last year. We putting those rumble strips in there, we're putting some.
Sellers Road traps.
Yes, and what's going on that road there is Google Maps it has it to where people on the west side are coming through that road versus going and using a different alternative road, as well as truck drivers are using that in the wintertime. They're getting stuck, or we're having fatalities and accidents. And I know that deputies were requesting that somehow we could maybe get Google Maps, because they're using Google Maps to divert that.
Yeah, we've done that a little bit, and especially with this emergency operations.
Yes.
We got the Google lobbyists as well as Apple, the technology groups, Waze, who are running navigational.
Yeah.
Whenever we have an incident stuff, we started a plan to where we can contact them, that we can reroute. So if cities and counties have issues like this, let us know so we can get to them, and the technology, they'll work with the local to see what's the best route. And whatever your recommendation they'll help program, at least in the algorithm, to start putting them to the safer route that you recommend.
That would be great, because all the farm, there's a lot of farmers up there, and they do a lot of freight. And I know some of the truck drivers are using that road to avoid the waste.
Yes, yeah, a lot of that.
A lot of it. And like I said, there's people coming down some of those roads that are, the public, and then they're using that.
If you get us the name of that road, and whatever, we appreciate it. Give it this gentleman as well.
Yeah, we're doing that now, frankly, with Mount Vernon getting underwater. I mean, other things going on. I mean, crazy stuff with the west side right now.
Yeah, you would make a lot of those big farmers up there on Horse Mountain Hills very happy.
Get us the info.
It's Travis and Sellers Road.
Yep.
I'm doing a project up there, and I go up there 3 or 4 times a day, where I have seen people going 70, 80 miles an hour on Sellers Road. And I have seen people on Travis Road literally go probably like once a week or twice a week. I'm seeing someone run that stop sign. And that's where the, last year, whatever, 2 fatalities passed away. And the Harleys have been, so it's a Harley produce up there. They've been bugging me, and I've been working with Matt on trying to get the stop sign to have the power up there, to have the light flashing. Because it is so foggy up there, even with the lights, you can't really see the stop sign. But then we're also working on getting, so on the north side of Travis Road, where Sellers is going east and west, on the north side, there are some stop strips, but heading northbound, there aren't any stop strips. So that's what Harley's been bugging me about, that I'm working with Matt on.
All right.
Those,
Just to be clear, we actually have FHWA funding for that project. We're just waiting for springtime when the weather's a little more favorable.
I'm making
it. Commissioner Alvarez.
We can do something to.
Because I've also, long story short, or short story short, I've also talked to Mike Clark too, having some sheriff's deputies up there, because speed limit's 50 miles an hour. Okay, I have a cruise control 57 miles an hour. There's guys passing me by going 80 or 90 sometimes. And this is me getting up to the job site at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're still driving crazy in the fog. So I'm just praying that the deputies can be up there too to kind of start getting some more tickets because it's just not safe up there.
So I'll get Brian Polar, he's one of the deputies up there to kind of do a little, report or whatever, what I'm seeing, and then we'll get it to Matt.
Yeah, I put
Yeah,
Ryan.
and if you just take a snapshot of the area and say, instead of this, go this, literally that simple.
We'll make it work.
That's good. I've given review tried to. I have Ryan Oler many times. Yeah.
Happy to work with Google lobbyists and Apple. those
I'm happy to hear that. That'll save
Yeah.
a lot of people.
And the more digital stuff we get into, the data that people rely on, that's where this is coming into the nuances that you see in some of these policies and in the safety aspect that we're seeing, even on 395 and some others.
You guys made my day. Maybe you can go ahead and get to that.
Well, we haven't done anything yet.
I know, but I'm saying,
Wait for lunch.
At least I know where-
At
at least I know where to direct you to. So I appreciate it.
Well, but we appreciate bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
I mean, really do.
Thanks, Mike.
If you don't tell us, we don't know.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. I'm gonna skip over to, liquor and cannabis, and labor and commerce. I'm gonna propose a bill where right now we have a 3-member board that overlooks liquor, cannabis, the whole bit. I mean, alcohol, it's a mess in my opinion. There have been appointees that have been more political than substantive. So I hope to drop a bill that's to make a liquor board that will be a 5-member rather than 3-member, 2 elected or 2 appointed from the Senate, not senators, but they would choose 2 members. The House would choose 2 members and the governor would choose 2 members. And they would oversee all of the aspects of alcohol or liquor. And we would do the same thing with cannabis. 2 boards, still keep the administration, probably have to add some more to that administration part of it. But we got to do something to change this around and get back to what we should be doing because it just isn't working as well as it should be. And beyond that, we're seeing less people drink. Our wineries are hurting, our distillers are hurting, our craft breweries are hurting. And we got to get this under control. I think the same is somewhat true of cannabis. My concern about cannabis is at some point it's gonna go national. I mean, they're gonna, and we will not be competitive because we have taxed cannabis to the nth degree. And if it goes national, we are gonna get left behind. So we got to start working on those kinds of things. We got to work on workers' comp. Those costs are going through the roof. PTSD, we're just adding groups every session. We add a group and the cost is just astronomical. We're going to have several bills in regards to that. One that I think will drop has to do with transparency and those types of things. You're going to get hit with long-term care. We're going to start paying that out the 1st of July. I'm not optimistic. I think we're going to be paying more than we ever thought we were going to be paying. And so we got to look at what we can do to kind of keep that under control. Paid family and medical leave. If you guys haven't been hit with that, I'm going to be utterly amazed because every other business and every other part of the state has been hit. When that program started, it was 0.4% was what they're taking out of your salary. It immediately went to 0.8. It's now at 0.92. First of the year, it's going to go to 1.13. We have a cap of 1.2. And they're talk that they want to get rid of the cap or raise the cap to 2%. I want to say within a year or two, I believe you're going to have 3% of your salaries coming out of long-term care and paid family and medical leave. Paid family and medical leave, you don't have to tell anybody. You just leave. You don't have to notify your employer. Used to be you had to take a day off if you were going to do it. We reduced that to 4 hours, which is just unbelievable. But I've had people, businesses call me and say, I went to lunch, I came back and 2 people left and they said they were on paid family medical leave. And what do? I mean, you can't control it. You gotta save the job for them, which is fine and dandy, but you know, it's getting to be a nightmare and it's getting bigger and bigger. And that cost is just gonna keep going up. The last thing I would tell you is I'm very concerned about this last round of legislation and taxes that we passed earlier this year. The example I'd give you, I have a couple that have worked all their lives in the Yakima Valley. They've done very well. They're very successful. The one business they had to close because of ecology. I won't get into that, but the other business, they're turning all that over to their son, and they're moving. They're moving to Arizona because of the death tax. And this is what their financial advisors are telling them. Sell everything you own in Washington State and move. So they're going to Arizona, 6 months in Idaho. And as they talked about all this, there was another lawyer there who said, I got 7 or 8 other couples just like you that are going to do the same thing. This is in the Yakima Valley. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in Bellevue and Kirkland and those areas? People aren't going to stay here because the death tax is going to take 35% of what they've worked all their life for. But these are the ramifications of what is happening with what we've done, and we got to figure out how to turn this around because our businesses are leaving, our people are leaving. Heritage Distillery said, I can't take these taxes anymore. They're moving lock, stock, and barrel to Tennessee. They won't be the only. So we have a challenge. We got to figure out what to do with it. My door, I hope you know, my door is always open. I don't care what the issue is. It doesn't have to be one that I sit on. But if I can be of help, I hope you'll give me that opportunity. If I can help you, I will. And if I can, I'll tell you. Pretty simple. But thank you for today and thank you for the information.
Appreciate that. That goes to that head tax you talked about.
Oh, yeah, well, it is, and well, and also the estate tax. I know my day job.
Yeah.
I'm since session ended up, I'm up to 10 of our county taxpayers that are moving out.
Moving up.
Yeah.
Senator,
Holly and Bill, they moved out.
I have that one.
Yeah.
yes, sir. Did I see this morning that the governor wants to buy 3 ferries, new ferries?
Well, I think we're buying, I don't know if he's talking 3 new ferries, we're talking the 3 that we've already ordered that are coming out of Florida. It may be that he wants to buy 3 more. I think, well, from my standpoint, I think we need to go back and look at the fact that we want to make this hybrid ferries now.
Yeah.
I mean, now you got to put in charging stations. We're going to get ferries that we don't even know that will work in the waters that we have in the Puget Sound. We're paying an absolute fortune for them. But we're paying that fortune in Florida, not in Washington, because Washington can't be competitive. And the example I would give you, a welder in Florida makes $27.86 an hour. A welder in the state of Washington being paid prevailing wage is like $57.60. Now, so you tell me how you be competitive outside of the state of Washington. So, you know, I think we need to look at our diesel engines. They're burned much cleaner than the ones we have now, and get real about what we can afford and what we can't afford. If we looked at diesel engines, we got to redesign it. What they tell me, oh, you got to redesign it. That'll take years, but you're going to end up with a boat that's going to work. And I think we should be looking at that, but right now we're not. If he's talking about 3 more, I don't know where he's going to get the $1 billion to do it.
Well, he's got a press release or press conference today at 12:30 and transportation rollout, so you might talk about that then.
Yeah, I thought I heard something like that too, Adam, and I was trying to find it here real quick, but I read something about all the ferries where he's trying to get to with them. And doesn't want to do any major changes, if I read right, till after FIFA, because he needs all 18. I think they got 18 with 3 of them that are on standby for when they break down.
Well,
They talked about the age of the ferries that he has, which one of them was built when I was born, so we know that it's a pretty new model.
News of the
It's
week.
been retrofitted a few times, let's put it that way.
So we converted the Wenatchee, that was the first of three of our mega boats. It was supposed to have been done in like 4 to 6 months. It was supposed to cost less than $50 million. It was done in 22 months and it cost us, I want to say 150. It was like 3 times what we had expected it, 130 some, almost 3 times what we expected it to be. And I mean, it's like, this is a conversion and then they put it out on the water. They tested it. They put it out, ran for less than a month. They had to pull it off because they were having problems. And of course, they said it wasn't the electrical part that was the problem. What did you change? Change the electrical part. And they've had to pull it in and out of service a couple of times. And now I think, and part of what he wants to do will be that he's gonna convert the other 2 as well. I mean, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense to me. Here we are.
It's religion. Hey, yeah, that cannabis or liquor board, that used to be a lucrative appointment. You got used to make some buck on that, didn't you? Was it Lloyd back in the day? They changed all that. They're not paid as much. Okay,
So you're.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having us. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'll start with the good news. You're all doing a great job. I'd like to see that considering what's happening, you're all doing great. Yeah, this was wonderful. But with that being said,
Stop that.
I'm the new kid on the block, so I'm still, just coming out of all this largest tax increase in the history. And so that was no fun to be, starting off on that track. But I'm passionate about, of course, public safety. That was better schools, stronger families. I sit on 3 committees, which is post-secondary education and workforce. We're hearing a lot about AI, so I think it's important for us to really begin to, it's here. We need to make sure that we get ready for it. And I say that it's important for us to discuss how we're going to make sure that our students, our colleges, universities do a good job at using it properly, because it could be a great tool for our students to be able to use for future business and studies, of course. Also, working with the schools, some of our local colleges and universities on career technical education. The federal government is making a lot of changes as it relates to the universities. They're really transferring some of the funds towards career and technical education. So that's going to be a great opportunity for us to tap into some of those funds. I'm sure the state is probably going to have to head that direction as well if they want to get some of those funds. I also sit on environment and energy. I'm very concerned about just some of the, just legislation that has come out of that, and how it's impacting our agriculture community. So I'm really working closely with farmers and farmworkers to see how we can, help some of our farmers in our area. Bill 1168 is causing a big stir in that committee. That was during committee days. That's a big discussion. I think you're going to see that that's going to be a very controversial bill. That was already, like I said, the big discussion in that committee. I sit on transportation. I'm assistant ranking third. Don't get excited about any ranking, because there's 2 other rankings in front of me, which I'm finding out. The good thing is that I get to sit in the budget discussions, and there's a lot of work to be done. I'm glad that Senator King is in that committee, because I really think that one of my priorities during, after coming back from Olympia is visiting our wastewater treatment centers. A lot of our wastewater treatment centers are outdated. We need to put some, money back into getting those, up to speed. And so that's going to be a big, discussion for the next budget. And of course, maintenance of some of our smaller community roads. I've had an opportunity to get out to those cities, and that's going to be a focus in the next budget for me. But I just think that, the biggest is just being able to tap into the needs. I heard today just some of the needs that are like Prosser has. We are right in our district ends in Grandview, but I'd like to, work with Senator Torres on that.
That would be great.
This is a huge, district. We start at Klickitat County and it goes all the way to Franklin. So Senator King and I have, it goes from Klickitat, Yakima, Benton, and Franklin. So it touches 4 districts, counties. So we got a lot of work to do. I'm gonna wrap it up with that. I won't make it too long, but there is a lot of work to be done on fixing just, our tax increases. We're hearing that this budget, there's gonna be more tax increases. At some point, it's got, the discussion has to be, what are we gonna do to stop, these increases? It's impacting business, diesel went up, gas went up. You think of it and it is going up. And so I'm really concerned. We met with other counties about the unfunded mandates that counties have to, have to deal with, and how you're going to be able to do some of the work that you're expected, to do without the funds. So I really want to work with counties to, take that discussion back to Olympia. So yeah, just again, I want to thank you. I have a great working relationship. You've got a great team in our floor leader here. She does an excellent job, and I really appreciate that. I was amazed. So I was in local government before I got there. I was the mayor of the city of Grandview, and I was a council member. What I enjoyed about being in local government is you could come together and agree on persuade another council member. Well, we are 59 to 39, and that needs to change. We need to be in a place where we we rely on persuading, someone to see what's best for the county, for cities, for schools. And I believe that it needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon. So again, thank you, and I'll turn it over to whoever's next.
What was that one bill, 1160?
1168, I think.
What's that about?
Today, that's
Wildfire.
the wildfire.
Oh, the wildfire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You're
so,
gonna hear that a lot.
Okay. Oh,
yeah, that was a big discussion on environment and energy. And a lot of the people that came from power utility companies are, so I heard that today. That might be one that,
were they following California?
A lot of-
attorney.
Oh, it's followed.
Yeah, there's a couple bills out right now that are being pushed through an old council of Inslee's. You made a note.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's being resonated with Representative Reeves. And so people are hearing that she said several meetings that, yeah, they're not even happy on this. And then the secondary impact is 2 or 3 others are coming out of those. And they're not looking good at all, is what I'm hearing.
So I think important, there's 2 issues here, actually. 1168 was passed in 2024 or something, and it is a funding bill that dedicated or promised a certain amount of money each year for DNR to do fire prevention work. And that there's an effort going on to ask the legislature to fully fund that promise. I think that, I don't know that there's a lot of controversy around that one,
Oh, so
except
there-
that it is a big budget ask. The insurance issue is the fund that, that a firm from
Yeah, right.
California is asking for, and it is based on the California model where you create a big pool that electric utilities pay into.
Yep.
And then, it's to basically,
Which the ratepayers.
It's a rate.
Yeah.
Yes. that's-
but it's to keep them from moving.
Well, thank you all again for having us. I know I stand between you and lunch. So I will make this very quick, as I mentioned earlier, that I do have some public defense and prosecution bills that are going to be helpful. I do hope to have your support on those. It is very bipartisan. And as I mentioned, Rep. Richards is spearheading them in the House, the companion bills. There's actually 3 of them. The other one was a joint memorial, so I can't really call that a bill. But I'm also working with Derek Nunnally also as well. He's with the Association of Washington State. So I've been working closely with him because I know that there has been a lot of discussion about should we follow WSTA standards for caseloads or should we follow Supreme Court, which is the one that we truly follow. And the proposition there is to keep following the Supreme Court standards. So that is something that we're working on right now, just a policy piece, no fiscal note attached to it. So hopefully you'll be seeing that one drop as well. We'll see how controversial that one gets. It's supposed to be a good little bill, but you know how that always plays out. We'll be seeing it's a good little bill, simple little bill. The other thing, B&O taxes, you're gonna keep hearing this. I did meet with the DOR during committee days at Olympia at the beginning of December. They are drafting up an exemption for school districts because we are hearing the school districts complain a lot about, hey, this is affecting us, especially when it comes to live educational presentations. We're gonna be taxed. There is very vague language in there, but in DOR's defense, they only had 105 days to come up with guidance, correct? So now they're trying to come around and try to help the school districts. I believe Senator Robinson, she is the ranking on Ways and Means, the chair of Ways and Means, who will be introducing that bill. L&I for striking workers, just a heads up that it's going to take effect January 1st. I'm sure you've heard of that. I haven't forgotten about that one, but just to give you a heads up on that, especially if you're a business owner or other businesses in the area that have union workers, including the cities and counties. What was the last thing I wanted to share with you? I already touched on CPS. There's more to come with JRA lawsuits. And it was Senator Warnick and Senator Christian. It's actually going to be I was trying to remember who it was, but it's actually Senator Warnick that has a bill that's coming out. So they're to kind of help fix tort fees.
Okay, cool, thank you.
And that's what I have for you all in a nutshell. And I will get you the bill numbers on the public defense as well, or you may already have them.
They showed up.
Okay.
And I just was looking, 5913 is your bill on the bar standards, which that is helpful. Thank you. 5914 is the funding one, and it also helps with bars.
And I'll just add on to that Rep. Mendoza, and we're kind of looking, there were 2 bills last year that were filed to try to help with juvenile interviews, which I know has been a big problem. Rep. Mendoza had one of them, Rep. Lowe had another one. We're looking to see if we maybe want to do a third that hits a lot more specifically for that, so. Hers is still out there.
Quick question, I know we're at lunchtime, but for senators, representatives and stuff, is there any way on the taxes, I get taxes, like we have the public safety sales tax here. I voted against it, would be the commissioner, like that's the only tax I agree on, because how we're using it the right way. Whereas our gas tax, why are our roads number 1 or 2 in the country when we're getting taxed? I get taxes using the right way. So I drive to Vegas once every Christmas or Thanksgiving. Going to Idaho and Vegas, it's $1.50, $2 cheaper when their roads are better. Even going through Idaho, we have the same weather down there. They have the same weather down there as up here. So I'm just wondering, is there any way that you guys can push the governor, the Senate to, cut our tax in half or get rid of our gas tax? Because I get taxes, why we need to have some of it, but again, like, why are we still number 1 or 2 in the country?
80 cents of, my opinion, 80 cents, at least 80 cents of the cost of your gas is the climate commitment act.
Yep.
See,
It's not a tax. It's,
so that's the thing too, like being a builder too. I got a best friend in Idaho where I grew up that does the same thing. Build a house for $285 a square foot. Okay, up here because of the energy code, 425, 475. And I'm like,
That's it.
the stuff that we have here in our state, we're the toughest state to build in and most expensive states to build in because of the energy code, where I get building some stuff efficiently, but the energy codes don't pay for themselves for 10 or 15 or 20 years.
They
Or
probably
even-
never pay for themselves.
Yeah, they don't, yeah,
Or even affect the change that people are saying they're gonna affect.
yeah,
That's what we're trying to get back with the transparency here. It's just actually reducing costs.
Yeah.
My bill last year was going after a report that our ecology says that we that meet these standards for 26, 2030, 2045, and all the stuff that's going out there.
Yeah.
So they don't they don't send out the results, but 4 years after the fact. So the current report is as the 2021 standards. They're taking a big lap and a leap, but that was when we were all shut down during COVID and a lot of the trucks were off the roads.
Yeah.
And so they're saying, hey, it's all working, it's great, we're gonna then double down.
yeah.
We're saying that a lot of these programs don't have the accountability. They're actually meeting the key performance indicators like any business has to go to. What are the metrics we're going after? Just basic, crazy common sense questions like that, and they're not showing us the data.
Yeah, because even real quick, being a builder, graduated from BYU, Idaho, came up here in 2007, building buildings. Even with the energy code, all the stuff that's required in our state to build
Yeah.
now, it would, if we didn't have that, it would be almost 20 or 30% or maybe 50% cheaper
50.
than even with the tariffs, which I agree with what Trump did for steel, because talking about steel company, once the tariffs drop, steel's gonna start below when the tariffs hit. So I get what Trump's doing on that end. So that's my last little thought is, whether you're Democrat or Republican, run the government like a business, make it to where everyone in the country is saving money, making money, and we're using the taxes the right way. It's like gas tax, holy moly.
Well,
And like-
one of the things that Curtis talked about, when he said 80 cents.
Yeah.
The last auction brought in $70 per metric ton, which is about this.
Yeah,
Yeah, the only time it went under $30 was when the initiative came out because there was the fear of that program going
Yeah.
away. Since then, it's gone up to $70 per metric ton. There's less credits available to buy. We're not really solving anything other than putting more costs on everybody in the state of Washington with those credits going up. As y'all know, PCA
Yeah.
closing down, 200 people leaving.
And shutting down businesses.
Yeah, when
Yeah, totally. That's, yeah.
PTA said to me when the bill was passed, they said we got 7 years and then we're gonna hit the cliff. Well, we're at 5 years right now. We're seeing what's happening.
Yeah,
They're shut
being a
down.
business owner, that's what I'm saying. Like, I appreciate the conservatives of what you guys are doing in our state. It's just tough how annoying the west side, the two counties over there are controlling our state where, come on, guys, have some, not you guys, but have them have some common sense to make it to where all the business owners, even the standard residential people can still afford to be here in Washington. This one last little story. I remember growing up in Benton, Idaho, born in 1980. And my grandpa and dad always, why are the Californians moving up here to Boise? Well, this was like in the 90s because Idaho had some good taxes and they're running it the right way. And now I see it why we're almost as bad or just as bad as California, why people are moving out of the state to go to Idaho and other states. So, yeah.
I would say one more thing, Commissioner, you could, so I have the bill to put a moratorium on state building code council. I do have a Democrat co-sponsor on that bill. Examples you can give me, like if you have a current project and you can tell me if we didn't have to put in this HVAC system, this solar panel, this, compare it to your buddy in Idaho, like take a similar project and tell me what the exact amount of increase it is for, because of the building, is really helpful.
It's mostly the solar panel part of it, but also the insulation and,
Window.
and the windows and stuff
Everything.
like that.
Yeah.
That's what makes it more expensive. So like the Hartley produce build that I'm doing, now it's required to put all these solar panels on the project after the permit is done. The Hartley is like, oh my goodness, now we got to really add another $500,000 or $1 million of solar panels when they're like, guys, having no power out here.
No, and the charging stations now are coming into the
Exactly.
building.
Yeah,
So every building's gonna have to have a charging station or
Exactly.
two, depending on the parking.
Yeah.
Then the parking lot bill, we had a couple of those go.
Oh, yeah.
That how many parking lot space you have per electric
Yeah.
vehicle,
yeah.
and then that,
Yeah, look how often ours are used. here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
So I was gonna suggest that that's great. I'm hearing from employers how they're beginning to put pressure because they do not want to touch the climate commitment act.
Yeah.
For roads or but if, the pressure begins to come from, business owners or community, it helps legislation or legislators be able to say, you know, this is what came into my office and it helps to read some of those,
Cause yeah, that's the
Sorry.
thing, like, you want the state of Washington to make it a successful, so all the business owners are being successful, because if the business owners aren't, and we're moving out of the state, that's just gonna hurt us more. Oh, we gotta raise more taxes to make it more.
And that's what's going on this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, and great word of Senator King.
Yeah.
9 months ago, not even 9 months, we passed these $1 billion taxes.
Yeah.
And look how far we are now. We're already going into more of a deficit because
Yeah.
people are leaving.
Yeah.
And they're going after it again, saying, we gotta keep taxing higher. So all we're seeing is it's gonna go back
Yeah.
again next year.
Seattle.
Didn't even take you 6 months. But the other point I would make is, right now, to build a mile of highway, over 30% of that cost is to address the environmental issues. That, all the stuff you have to do is.
Well, I smell the food back.
Yeah.
I can smell the food. Well, I'm getting hungry. So thank you all, and
Thank
good
you.
lunch here, make your own sandwich. Appreciate your time. What's that, yeah, we're adjourned.
There we go.